It's a pleasure to be here today to take you on a transformative journey where we explore the relationship between design, equity, and circularity. Now, before that, I'd like each of you to take a quick glance at the phone that you're carrying with you. I'd like you to take a quick glance at, let's say, the chair that you're seated on, the watch that some of you may be wearing. Now take a quick look around the space that we're in. Yeah? Think about the walls, the curtains, the lighting, the stage that I'm standing here right now. You may want to think or imagine beyond the space that we are in. Think of the car that you drive or the bus that you take on a day-to-day basis. What do all these things have in common? You may start to realize by now that these are works of design. Now, design is just more than aesthetics and functionality. As an architect, I have seen firsthand the power that design can have in shaping the world that we live in, and of course, influencing individuals and communities. But I've also seen that design can perpetuate injustice and inequality. Bearing that in mind, it is essential that we design for a better future, a future that is regenerative and equitable for all. Now, our current systems and structures are not sustainable, and we must acknowledge that. The fact that our systems are built upon the exploitation of natural resources, and it's about time we change that. We all know that circular economy is the way forward for us to protect the planet. But we also, when we integrate circular practices into design, we unlock a path towards social justice and equality. What does this mean for circular practices? What does circular practices entail? Now, in a world that is dominated by this linear take, make, and dispose model, circularity challenges the status quo and allows us as designers and innovators to rethink how we design, produce, and consume products by prioritizing reuse, repurpose, and recycling of materials. And that means less waste, more value. So how can circular design practices address social justice and equality? Let us explore a few contexts across fields in which circular design or regenerative design can address social injustice and can drive social equity. And I'd like to explore this from the spoon to the city, as said by Ernesto Rogers, an Italian architect. With that said, let us first consider product design. So as you can see here, let's just imagine a world where single-use items are replaced by products that are repairable and reusable, in which people can reuse and upcycle them and then pass them down to the future generations. With this approach, we as designers can create products that are not just sustainable, but they're also accessible and affordable to all. Architecture, of course, plays a significant role in promoting circular economy. When you think about it, a building that is deeply rooted in circular design prioritizes energy efficiency, sustainable local materials, the ones that are ideally low carbon and low cost, and most importantly, adaptive reuse. I like to believe that a good architecture in today's time is the one that is designed to be adaptable, in which these spaces and structures can be reused and repurposed over the years to accommodate various programs and needs. By reusing By repurposing existing structures, architects can breathe new life into neglected neighborhoods, whether it is creating affordable housing or designing a vibrant communal space that bridges social divide. There's one example here that I'd like to show, which has always been close to my heart, and it's this building. Does everyone know this place? The Flying Saucer. It's right here in Sharjah. Now, how many of you remember coming across this building, whether you've seen it or visited the space, when you were little? Quite a few of you, and that's quite surprising. Most of us here now remember seeing this as an art space. But did you know that this was never intended to be designed as such? So let me take you through a short story of this building. So this building originally opened in 1978, hosting a cafe, a restaurant, a pharmacy, a gift shop, and a convenience store, all in one roof. And then over the years, it has housed various programs, from a Maya Lal supermarket to Sharjah Corp. This was exactly how it looked the very first time I saw this as a child. This was here from the 90s until the late 2000s, the early 2000s. So from Sharjah Corp to a chicken restaurant. So now we have this image which was taken after Taza was closed, unfortunately. And this remained vacant for years. Now there were considerations of this building that it should be demolished. But instead of this building being demolished, Sharjah Art Foundation took a decision to conserve this building because of its architectural significance. So now you see this has been transformed into an art gallery with a sunken library underground. This is a local example of circular building design. Now, all these principles can be implemented at macro level when planning and designing cities. Circular urbanism, or circular city design, is where circular or regenerative cities are embraced as an idea in which communities thrive within the interconnected systems. With this approach, there's a need for equitable access to open spaces, public transport, and essential services, regardless of socioeconomic backgrounds. So, what does this mean for environmental justice? And how can design help us get there? Let us start by understanding environmental justice. When we think of this term, we envision that everyone, regardless of their social status, income, or race, should have access to clean air and water, healthy food, and a safe living environment. Unfortunately, that's not the case for most communities around the world. And design can help us address those environmental injustices. How so? We have just seen some examples in which we can design buildings that are energy efficient and accessible to all, that we can design public spaces that promote active lifestyle and social cohesion, that we can design public transportation systems that prioritize walking, cycling, and public transit over cars. But we must understand that design is more than just the physical creation of spaces and infrastructure. We must also consider the social and cultural context when implementing visions. So there are some examples which are being put into practice in which environmental justice is taken into consideration in the design decision-making processes. Let's take an example of Rotterdam, where the community-led project called the Bospolder Tussle Deacon, Botu for short, has transformed a neglected neighborhood into a sustainable and a livable community. And this follows the circular economy approach while in tandem with creating more job opportunities for the people and fostering a sense of belonging and civic pride. Another local example, again in Sharjah, is Al Manakh Spaces. And this is one of the projects which I find commendable for their efforts to bring people from the community to collectively design an abandoned school playground into a community garden. So over the course of months, people from the neighboring communities have been invited to partake in collaborative design workshops and community engagement sessions to offer their input, their needs and aspirations into this space that the design team were proposing for intervention. So let's bear in mind that this space that you see here in the images is for the abandoned school playground within Al Manakh. And the idea is to transform this into a community garden which doesn't just serve as a park, but there were different options and programs that people have in mind. One of them being a healthy organic garden. Now you may start to think, how do these examples help translate into tangible social justice outcomes? Let me share with you a short story that embodies this transformative potential. So in a marginalized community, a group of individuals have embarked on a journey of circularity. Within that, they have repurposed vacant lots, for example, rooftops, into community gardens, fostering local food production and offering residents with a healthy and nutritious options. And with that, residents have been empowered with valuable skills such as entrepreneurship, while food insecurity and health are being addressed. So as a result, not only has the community revitalized, but also there's been a sense of belonging, pride, and most importantly, resilience. These three values that have been instilled within this community. Now, as we all know, that design for sustainability is not just exclusive. The benefits of sustainability should not be exclusive, but should be shared by all. However, achieving this requires a collective effort. We need architects, we need thinkers, innovators, policymakers, designers, scientists, and most importantly, citizens to help collaborate and place equity at the core of the design decision-making processes. We must listen to the voices of those that have been severely impacted by injustices and aim to address their needs and consider their aspirations that will help us shape the visions that we formulate and the design decisions that we create. But we cannot just stop there. As we embrace regenerative practices, we must also address the underlying structures that cause inequality and injustice. And that means breaking barriers, promoting inclusion, and advocating for policies that support equitable access to opportunities and resources. We must work together in order to close the loop. Design for environmental justice and social equity are very crucial, and we must also consider the social and cultural context, as mentioned earlier, when implementing these designs. If you think about it, designing for these two things, that is environmental justice, and social equity, they're not just a moral imperative, but an economic one. You must work together to tackle these issues, address the challenges, and together we can create a future that is not just regenerative, but also equitable and just for all. A future that works for all of us and for the planet that we call home. Thank you.